So for this pattern, you need multiples of 5 plus 2 for your foundation chain. So what I've done is I've measured out somewhere between 60 and 64 inches for my shawl, and I've calculated that to be about 240 chains, so that's divisible by 5, and then I've added 2 for the foundation chain. So I have 242 chains total. So for this pattern, because I want a border, I'm going to go ahead and single crochet in my foundation chain. I am not going to do a back loop to start my foundation chain. I do want there to be some stretch to this, and I find that when I do the back loops on my foundation chain, there's more tension, which I think in certain situations is appropriate, but I want there to be stretch. So I'm just going to do a normal, just go into the normal loops. So I'm going to skip the first loop on my chain, and I'm going to single crochet into the second loop from the chain, just like that. So I'm going into the loop, yarning over, pulling through, have 2 loops on my chain, and then pull through both, and that's a single crochet, just like that. And this yarn is super pretty, so it lends itself well to any pattern that you choose. So you can see I have single crochets, and I'm going to do this all the way down to the end, and then we'll turn our work and begin our actual pattern. So I'll continue to single crochet just like I've been doing. I'm going to go into the loop, yarn over, pull through. So I have 2 loops on my chain, yarn over, pull through both, and I'll meet you at the end of the chain. So we are just finishing up on our row of single crochets. We are going to chain 1, turn our work, and now we're going to begin the first row of the shell pattern. To do that, we're going to, in the first stitch, do a single crochet. In the second stitch, do another single crochet. Then we're going to chain 3, so 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to be basically doing 3 chains, skipping 2, and then 3 single crochets till we get to the end. So just to show you again, 1, 2, 3 chains, skip, skip, single crochet, single crochet, and 1 more single crochet. Let's do 1 more together. 1, 2, 3, skip, skip, single crochet, single crochet, single crochet. Oops. What we're doing is we're creating the base for the shells to go into on the next row. So our shells will go into these chain spaces that we're creating, and then we're going to anchor them down with this middle single crochet. So I'm going to do 1 more with you, and then I'm going to meet you back, but we'll chain 3. Remember, you're skipping 2, 1, 2, and then single crochet into the next 3. Let's make sure we got both loops. There we go. I love this yarn. I'm probably going to say this about a bajillion times during this this video tutorial, but it glides so smoothly. It's so easy to use. I love the little shiny stripe, the bits of blue in there with the pink. So I'm going to continue enjoying my yarn, and I'm going to meet you when we get to the end of this second row. So remember, chain 3, skip 2, single crochet into the next 3, and I'll meet you back at the end. So we are coming to the end of our second row. I'm about to chain 3, skip 2, 1, 2, and I should have 2 single crochets left, yes. to single crochet in. So 1 and 2. And did I get both? Yes. Okay. So we are going to chain 1 and turn our work. And now this is where we start with our shell pattern. And you can see how pretty this is and glittery, and my nails match it, which is nice. Okay, so I have chained 1, and in that doesn't count as anything. And in this first single crochet, I'm going to go ahead and do 1 single crochet. Now begins our actual shells. So I'm going to do 5 double crochets into this chain space. So you'll see 1. So we're going to, just to do a quick review of the double crochet, yarn over, go through the chain space, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2, and that's 3. Get a little bit more yarn. Yarn over, go into your loop, pull through 2, and last one. And now we have a pretty little shell right there. We want this shell to be, to make its shape, and to do that, we're going to now, and we have our 3 single crochets from the previous row, we're going to single crochet into the center one. And I like to think of this as anchoring our shell down. So it keeps it nice and intact and in place, just like that. So what we're gonna do for the whole rest of this is we're going to basically do the same thing over and over again. So we're going to do 5 double crochets, and then in the middle second single crochet, we're gonna single crochet into there. So to show you again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 5 double crochets, and now we will go into 1, 2, 3 to the second single crochet right there, and we'll go ahead and do a single crochet in there as our anchor. One more time, so we have our nice chain space. 1, 2, 3, 4, and one more, 5. And then we're going to find that second single crochet and go ahead and anchor in there. So you can see how that pattern's coming along. What we're basically going to be doing is doing a repeat of our chain and single crochet row, and then one of our shells. But I do want to show you how we will do that for this next row. The shells are not going to be in line with each other, they're going to be offset, so they'll be coming like this, but I'll meet you back. So I'm going to continue to do this all the way down until I reach the end of my very long chain, or my very long row, and then I'll show you what the next step is. So I'm just about finished with this row. At the end here, I should have 2 stitches left after the last shell. So I'm going to go ahead and do a single crochet into the absolute last stitch. So single crochet, and then I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn my work. And there's a lot of this, so I'm going to now show you the next step. So we're on the 4th row total, but this is the 3rd row in this repeating pattern. And what we're going to do now is we're going to build the single crochet row that goes along with the shells that alternate. So to do that, we're actually going to find on our shells, we have 5 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After we've chained 3, we're gonna find the middle 3, so the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and we're going to single crochet into those. So 1, 2, 3. Oops. 3. And those 3 are the same as the 3 that we have down here. We've just shifted it over to over here, and we have a little chain space there that we're going to use to put in some double crochets on the next row. So from here on out, we're going to do the same thing that we did in the first row. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to find those center 3 on the 5 double crochets. We're going to find the center 3. So we're going to single crochet into those, 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to chain 3 again, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to skip. We're essentially skipping. If you see, we're skipping the last chain here, the single crochet in the first stitch of our double crochets, and we're going into the middle 3, 1, 2, 3. And this is basically setting up the foundation for the next row of shells. The shells will go in here, so you won't have a shell, like I mentioned, above the previous shells. They're going to be alternating, and we'll do a little half shell in the corner here. That'll make a nice even edge. So one more time, 1, 2, 3, and then skip 1, 2, 3, and then go into the center 3 of the double crochet shell from the previous row. And there you go, 3. So I'm going to keep working on this, and then I'll show you how to turn your work at the end of this row and work on the last part of the repeat. So I've reached the end of my 4th row. I've just finished doing the 3 single crochets. I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and then we're going to find our last stitch, and we're going to half double crochet into there. So half double crochet, we're going to pull through all 3 loops on our chain, and that's going to create the window that we need on this side. So now it's time to chain 3 and turn our work and begin our shells. So I'm going to go ahead and move all this stuff over, and we're going to do 2 double crochets into our chain space there. 1 and 2, and our chain 3 in this case counts as one double crochet. So now this is half of our shell, and just like we did on the second row, we're going to anchor our shell into the middle of the 3 single crochets by just doing a single crochet. Excuse my dog barking. He's guarding the neighborhood. So now I'm gonna go ahead. So I've anchored my half shell there, and now it's time to do a full shell into the next chain space. So remember, that is going to be 5 double crochets. 1, 2, get a little bit more yarn, 3, 4, and 5. Just like that. So you can see we have a half shell, and then we have our full shell, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to just single crochet into the middle of the 3. And there you go. We have the last row of our repeat. So I'm going to go ahead and do one more with you, and then I'm going to work my way down to the end. So we have 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, 3, 4, 5, and then remember, we're going to go ahead and anchor. We have our 3 single crochet, so we're going to skip the first one and single crochet in that second one. So I'm going to continue with this row of shells at the end, and then I'll meet you to show you how you do the turning chain to start the pattern over again. So I've reached almost the end of this row, and I'm going to just do my single crochet in the middle, to anchor my shell. And then remember we have that chain space here. And so in here, I'm going to do 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, get a little bit more yarn, and 3. Now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. So now it's time to start the pattern over again. And just like we did with the first row, we're going to go ahead and do 2 single crochets, or with the first row of the pattern, 2 single crochets. Then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to look for, again, those center 3 on this shell. So we're going to skip the last double crochet, the single crochet, and the first double crochet. And in these 3, we're going to single crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. And that's starting kind of the single crochet chain row that we're going to be building our shells upon again. And so what's going to happen here is we have our row of single crochets, which is what we're doing right here. Then you have your row of shells. Then you have your row of adjusted or shifted over single crochets. That leaves you with the chain space. Then you start your row of shells that alternates that. So that way you have a shell here, we'll have a shell here, but you never have a shell directly over. So this is the first row of the repeat that we're starting over again, and we're just going to continue these 4 row repeats until we reach the height of the shawl that we want. So I'm going to continue working on this, and I'll meet you back once I get to that length. So I am finishing up row 13. This is one of the shell rows that ends on the edge. So I'm going to put 3 in here. I've just single crocheted into the middle, and then in my chain space here, I'm going to put 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So with this 13th row, I have my row of single crochets, and then I have 6 sets of the shells. So that includes the single crochet chain space row and then the shell row above it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 panels. One panel, this is almost the end of one panel, and then I'm going to do the second panel. And to do the panels, to end them, I want to end with a row of single crochets. Now I can't do that quite yet here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to work just as if I was going to do another row of shells. So in here, I'm going to place 2 single crochets, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you'll see here, just like we did with when we were building our row, we're going to find the center 3 of the double crochets, and I'm going to just single crochet into each of them. So 1, 2, 3, and then again chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to continue this in the same area by doing the center 3 double crochets, chain 3, and so on. So I'm going to finish that to the end, but when I finish this row, I am not going to put shells in here. What I'm going to do instead is make a row of just single crochets, which is going to give it a border that matches here. So when I get to the end of this row, I'm going to turn around and show you how I do that. I've just finished my last chain 3, and I'm going to remember skip 1, 2, 3 stitches, and I'm going to single crochet into this single crochet, and then there was a chain space that I'm going to go ahead and single crochet into there too. So you should end with 2 single crochets. I'm going to chain 1, and we'll turn our work. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create our single crochet border. And we do that by placing a single crochet into every single crochet from the row before. So 1, 2, and into our chain spaces, we're going to place 2 single crochets. So now I get to the next part where I have 3 single crochets from the previous row. I'm going to put 1 single crochet into each of those single crochets. So that's 3. And then I'm going to put 2 single crochets into my chain space. 1 and 2. And then again, I'm going to put 1 single crochet into each of our single crochets and 2 into the chain space. If you'll remember when we started this pattern down here, after we'd done our row of single crochets, we placed 2 single crochets, and even though we chained 3, we skipped only 2 single crochets. So that's why into every chain space, we're putting 2 single crochets only. Even though it's a chain 3, it represents the 2 single crochets from down here. So I'm gonna continue basically doing 1 single crochet into every single crochet from the row before, and then I'm going to do 2 single crochets into my chain space, and I'm going to do this until I reach the end. Then I'm going to repeat this whole setup so that I have 2 of these long panels, and then I'll meet you back. So I have my 2 panels completed, and I've lined them up with the shells facing each other, and you can pick whichever side you like to go up, however you want them to be. This was just what I thought was prettiest, so I'm gonna leave it like this. And what we're gonna do is we're going to make chains of 15 and connect them going across, then slip stitch up 2 stitches and go back across. And this is going to create just basically a pattern of chains that will connect these 2 panels together. So let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to start by chaining 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And I'm going to go ahead and connect that over to this row of single crochets with the slip stitch. Now, if you want a narrower panel, you can definitely do that if you want, but I want something a little bit more open. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to find my first single crochet, and from the top, I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into that single crochet and pull it through, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the next 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2, and then from here I'm going to go ahead and do another chain of 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And I'm going to come back to this side, and I have my first single crochet, my second single crochet, which I'm going to skip and then go into my third one. And again, I'm going to come in from the top, single crochet, and then, slip stitch again, 1, 2, and then I'm going to chain 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now we're going to come back over here. We see where we have our chain from the second one, the second chain. We're going to skip this single crochet, and we're going to slip stitch into that next one from the top again. And then we're going to, so I've slip stitched into here, and then onto this next one, I'm going to slip stitch, and then slip stitch again. And on the second slip stitch, we're going to chain 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Come back around and you'll see where we have our chain from the last time. We'll skip 1 single crochet and we'll go into this next one from the top and slip stitch in. And then we will, oops, you gotta slip stitch in all the way. There we go. Slip stitch into the next one and then into the second one. And from the second one, we'll go ahead and make our next chain of 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So now we'll go back over to the right side and you'll see where our chain came out. We're going to skip 1 and then slip stitch from the top. Oops. Yikes. There we go. And then we're going to slip stitch again. 1 and 2. And then from the second one, we make our next chain of 15. So you can kind of see how this is coming together. I'm going to just continue doing this all the way across until I get to the end and the 2 panels are joined. And then we'll have finished the second portion of this shawl. So I finished up all the chains to go between the 2 panels, and I've also added a picot border onto the ends, and this is going to just basically give the end a nice finished look. So I'm going to show you how to do that on the opposite side. This is the unfinished edge, and what we're going to do is we're going to start here in this corner, and I'm going to zoom in to make it easier for you guys to see. So we have our row of single crochet, then we have our shell pattern, then we have another single crochet followed by our chain of 15 and then the same panel on the other side. So between that we're going to do picots in sets of 5. So to do the picot, I'm going to start by doing my slip stitch. Go ahead and get that on there, and I'm going to find the single crochet on the corner here. And you're going to want to make sure you find both stitches, that way you don't have a gaping hole. And we're going to do a single crochet. We're immediately going to go into our first picot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to find the first chain right there, and we're going to slip stitch into there to create the little picot. Then I'm going to basically follow along with how many stitches I have here to get to make the rest of the border. So the next one I have is a single crochet, so I'm going to just do 1 single crochet into there. And then I have what looks to be, this is a double crochet row, so we're going to put 2 in there, 1 and 2. And remember, we are still keeping count from here, so this is the 3rd one. This is my half double crochet row, so 4. We're only going to do 1 there. And then we have another half double crochet, or then we have another double crochet. So this is 5, and I will put another single crochet in there, but it's time to picot. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to slip stitch and then go ahead and do another single crochet in there, and you can kind of see how that picot is coming together. So now I'm going to do the next 5, and so I have my 2 for that row. Here's another double crochet, so I'm going to do 1 and 2, and then I have my half double crochet, so 3, 4, is actually 5 right there. And so now 1, 2, 3, 4, and slip stitch to make the picot. And then we're going to go into the next one, which is a single crochet. 1, and then we have another one there. 2, 3, 4, oops, and 5 here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to single or slip stitch to make the picot. So you can see how that's coming along. I do want to show you what happens when we get to the chain space, so I'm going to do one more before we get there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that takes us to our first chain space for 5. So we're going to go here. I'm going to try to weave in this end at the same time, and we're going to do our picot. 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the chain space, and then we're going to work into the next. 1, 2, 3, 4. See if you can make sure you see this. And 5. And picot time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the first chain. So I did try, when I worked on this pattern, I did try just going into the whole entire chain space here. I found that it didn't go as evenly, so I do recommend actually going into the chain, the little loops themselves, as opposed to working into this space here and just hooking around. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and go back into the next chain space. We've got to do the next 5 single crochets. 2, 3, and I'm just grabbing this end and weaving it in to save me time later. 4, and 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and slip stitch. Okay, I'm going to finish this to the end, and then I will show you the finished work, or the finished ends, and explain to you how I'm going to block this. Okay, I just finished my last picot, and instead of going out around this way, I'm actually going to try to come in and chain it on the inside a little bit. And the reason I'm doing that is so that the picot falls nicely on the inside. So we're going to slip stitch there. And that's the last picot. Now to finish this, I'm going to go ahead and do another slip stitch right there. And then I will cut this and weave it in. So you can see here's one end. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. So this is one end of the border, and then this is the other. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 picot stitches here, and we have the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 picot stitches here. These can be tricky when you're trying to work a border on an uneven edge. The idea when you're making your borders is that you follow what's on the side. So in this case, we had varying sides. There were single crochets, half double crochets, double crochets. So the main thing is to try to get, if you followed my pattern with the same amount of rows, the main trick is just to make sure you end up with 12 picot stitches spaced between the 5 single crochets, and that'll get you to where you want to be. Now, because of the way the tension is, I am going to block this, and when I block it, I'm going to block it to stretch this a little bit, to give it a little bit more, just to bring the lace apart a little bit, and it'll help tighten this. But I will wet block it. I will put pictures of that on the blog post to accompany this. I really hope you liked this video and you learned a lot about how to do the arcade stitch, as well as how to bring together 2 panels and make a picot. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help. And please do subscribe. It helps to grow the channel and helps me put out new videos regularly. Thank you and happy crocheting.